So guys, today we are gonna read the lesson of control and coordination in plants and animals. Uh, so welcome to the science class, class 10th. So let's start the chapter. All the living organisms have sensitivity which help them to detect the changes in the internal and external environment and show their responses against those changes. Control and coordination in plants. Plants do not have nervous system and sense organs like animals. Plants are sensitive to environmental stimuli like light, temperature, chemical, water, touch and gravity, etc. by the action of hormones. Now next heading is response in the plant in the form of movement. Plant cannot move from one place to another, but still they show various type of movement. The movement are of bending type. Movement may sudden such as touch me not plant. Next heading is movement due to growth. These are permanent movement which are caused by the activity of meristem and result in permanent change. Next heading is movement by internal factors. The most important factors are the phytohormones. So what are phytohormones? Phytohormones or plant hormones. The chemical which are required to control growth and development in plant are called plant hormone. There are mainly 5 types of plant hormones. First is auxins, second is gibberellins, third is cytokinins, and third is cytokinins, fourth is ethylene, fifth is abscisic acid. Okay. Now let's talk about the types of plant hormones in depth. First is auxins. The biosynthesis of auxin or IAA occurs in rapidly dividing and growing tissue, especially in shoots. Root apical meristems are also important. Sites of auxin synthesis. Auxin accumulates at the tips of very young leaf. Auxin was discovered as the hormone in the bending of coleoptiles of canary glands. Sorry, let me repeat this again. Auxin accumulates at the tips of very young leaf. Auxin was discovered as the hormone in the bending of coleoptiles of canary glass toward light. Auxin is able to regulate the rate of cell elongation. Increase of length, root growth is basically controlled by auxin. Second type of plant hormone is gibberellins. Gibberellins perform many functions. These are as follows. First is the gibberellins content of crop plants affect the shoot size, fruit development and growth. Second is it promotes seed germination and stimulates stem and root growth. Third is gibberellin is also responsible for fruit growth in the absence of pollination, resulting in parthenocarpic fruit. Third is cytokinin. These are also called phytokinin. Cytokinin also helps in breaking of dormancy of seeds, apical dominance, delay of senescence, set expression, induction of parthenocarpy, and provides resistance to high temperatures. Fourth is ethylene, a gaseous hormone. It is gaseous hormone and lighter than air under physiological conditions. Ethylene can be produced by almost all parts of higher plants. In the period of fruit maturation, the ethylene production increase and in the stress conditions such as drought, flooding and mechanical wounding, ethylene production also increases. It is the growth regulator which inhibits elongation of stem and nullifies geotrophism. Ethylene causes faster abscission of leaves and flowers, etc. Fifth is abscisic acids, AVA. It is recognized as an important plant hormone that regulates growth and stomatal closure in the environmental stress condition. The other important functions of ABA are regulation of seed maturation and dormancy. Now next move on to the next topic, that is plant growth. Living plants have the characteristics of showing some changes in their position due to changes in the environment or endogenous changes. Such changes are called movements. The movement in the plant part is usually due to unequal growth in its two regions by the action of plant hormones. Under the influence of stimulus, plant movements can be autonomous, that is spontaneous, and paratonic induced movements. Paratonic or induced movements are of following types: tropic movements, nastic movements. So first we will talk about tropic movements. Tropic movements or tropism are the mean of movement by which plant responds against the external or environmental stimuli such as light, gravity, etc. Tropism is the growth of the plant part is towards the stimulus. It is called positive tropism. Now let's talk about negative tropisms. If the growth of a plant part is against the stimulus, it is called negative tropisms. Type of tropisms. Tropisms based on different types of stimuli are as follows. First is phototropism, response of plants parts to light. Phototropism is expressed in all shoots and some roots. It ensures that leaves will receive essential amount of sunlight for the photosynthesis. Therefore, the leaves, in order to trap the solar energy, can show the positive tropism very clearly. The stem of the plant grows straight upwards to ensure the large quantity of light falling on it. Second is geotropism, response of plant parts to gravity. The plant growth is in response to gravity is called gravitropism. Gravitropism enables roots to grow downward into the soil towards gravity and shoots to grow upward away from the soil against the gravity. Now third is chemotropism, response of plant parts to chemicals. Chemical substances also sometimes act as a stimulus growth of plant part. Due to chemical stimulus is also known as chemotropism. Fourth is thigmotropism, response of plant parts to the touching objects. We often observe the plants that are not capable of standing erect. Hence, they develop some plant parts for climbing on the solid support as or another plant. These are called tendrils. Fifth is hydrotropism, response of plant parts to water. The plant roots bend towards the direction of water in spite of the fact whether the plant is growing on the ground, hanging plant or climbing plant. The roots always bend towards water can also be observed in germination of seed. Now move on to the next topic, that is nesting movements. Such movements of the plant part in response to an external stimulus in which the direction stimulus is not determined is called nesting movement. Thigmonasty. Thigmonasty is the nesting movement. Thigmonasty is the nesting movement of a plant part in response to touch. Thus, the stimulus in thigmonasty is the touch. The non-directional movement of a plant part in response to touch of an object is called thigmonasty. Photonestic movement. If the variations in position of the plants, example, flowers and leaves of plants, are induced by light stimulus, such non-directional movements are called photonestic movements. Thermonestic movement. If the variations in the position of plants like flowers and leaves of the plants are caused by change in temperature of the surroundings, such non-directional movements are called thermonestic movements. Central nervous system. Central nervous system CNS consists of brain and spinal cord. Brain is the control house of our body. All the activities, whether mental or physical, are directly or indirectly under the control of our brain. The brain is the central information processing organ of our body and acts as the command and control system of our body. First is brain. Brain, it is connected to all the sense organs of the body, and so it forms the site for the processing of vision, hearing, speed, memory, intelligence, emotions and thoughts. The human brain is well protected by skull. Inside skull, the brain is covered by membranes called cranial meninges. Brain can be divided into three major parts. First is forebrain, second is midbrain, third is hindbrain. So let's talk about the forebrain structure and functions. Forebrain consists of cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Cerebrum forms the major part of the human brain, and the very part of the human brain called hypothalamus lies at the base of the thalamus. The hypothalamus contains a number of centers which control body temperature, urge for eating and thinking. It also contains several groups of neurosecretory cells which secrete hormones called hypothalamic hormones. All actions that are voluntary are controlled and coordinated by cerebrum, a part of forebrain. The sense organs give message to brain. Cerebrum decides the response and gives to the motor nerves of the voluntary muscles to move and bring about the appropriate responses. Now talk about the midbrain structure and functions. Midbrain is located between the thalamus, hypothalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. A canal called the cerebral aqueduct passes through the midbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain consists mainly of four round swellings, lobes called corpora, quadrigemina. Midbrain and hindbrain form the brain stem. Midbrain controls the reflex of head, neck and trunk. The light and sound stimulus are picked up by respective sense organs given to the brain by sensory neurons, and the midbrain gives the appropriate reflex actions. For example, change in the pupil size, change in the shape of the lens and movement of eye muscles. Third is hindbrain structure and functions. Hindbrain comprises pons, cerebellum and medulla, also called the medulla oblongata. Pons consist of fiber tracts that interconnect different regions of the brain. Cerebrum has very convoluted surface in order to provide the additional space for many more neurons. Medulla of the brain is connected to the spinal cord. The medulla contains centers which control respiration, cardiovascular reflexes and gastric secretions. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is spinal cord. The description of CNS is concentrated on the structures of brain, but the spinal cord is another major organ of the system. The brain develops out of expansions the neural tube into the primary and then secondary vesicles. The spinal cord maintains the tube structure and is only specialized into certain regions. On the whole, the posterior regions are responsible for sensory functions and the anterior regions are associated with motor functions. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is peripheral nervous system. All the nerves of the body like cranial nerve, spinal nerve and visceral nerve together make up the peripheral nervous system, PNS. Visceral nerve are a special kind of nerve which mostly arise from spinal cord and are connected to the internal organs of the body. Visceral nerves carry both sensory and motor neurons. Now move on to the next topic, that is involuntary nervous system. Many uncontrolled actions such as blinking, sneezing, saliva secretion, etc. are common examples of the involuntary action. The involuntary actions have little differences from reflex actions. The reflex action is the simplest form of response of our nervous system performs. It is an automatic, sudden and rapid response to the stimulus which is not under the voluntary control of our brain. It is an involuntary action. The simple form of behavior which we perform automatically is called reflex action. The common examples of reflex actions are a knee jerk, moving our hand away when we touch a hot plate, movement of diaphragm, yawning, coughing, blinking of eyes, and sneezing. Now talk about reflex arc. The pathway or route taken by the nerve impulse in a reflex action is called reflex arc. Example of reflex actions. To explain the reflex arcs are a reflex action showing knee jerk reflex, reflex action showing our reaction of touching a hot plate,